Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about one of Disney's most heartfelt, misunderstood, and surprisingly deeply animated films, Lilo and Stitch. Released in 2002, Lilo and Stitch came out during what fans sometimes call Disney's experimental era. It's the awkward time between the Renaissance classics and the 2010s revival called post-Renaissance. And even in this uncertain time, this movie stood out like a blue alien at a Hawaiian luau. It's weird, it's funny, and above all, very real. And in this video, I am breaking down exactly why across our usual 6 categories. So grab an ice cream, put on your favorite Elvis track, and let's talk about why Ohana means family and why Lilo and Stitch means excellence. Category number 1, visual and style. Starting with visuals, and honestly, this is where Lilo and Stitch quietly broke Disney tradition. Instead of the rich digital shading of Tarzan or the CGI complexity of Treasure Planet, this movie went back to the basics with soft watercolor backgrounds. And to me, that was a very conscious and artistic choice. The effect is stunning, the gentle tones of Kauai and the blue skies, the ocean's reflections, the pastel housing, kind of gives the movie a warmth that is completely different from the studio's typical glossy look at this time. It feels handmade, intimate, and personal. And then Stitch himself is a crazy design. He's cute, he's chaotic, and slightly grotesque, but in a good way. His rounded shape and expressive eyes make him both alien and relatable, a perfect visual metaphor for being out of place yet still lovable. It's worth noting that Lilo and Stitch didn't rely on spectacle, no big castles or fantasy kingdoms. Its beauty kind of comes from everyday life. Waves, sunsets, a hammock under the stars, and that quiet naturalism is what makes it very timeless. So my visual verdict: visually, Lilo and Stitch is one of Disney's most unique and heartfelt art styles, and easily one of the best-looking films of its era. Category number 2 is story and structure. The story of Lilo and Stitch is deceptively simple. A lonely girl adopts what she thinks is a dog, but is actually a destructive alien experiment on the run. Beneath the sci-fi chaos, it is a story about grief, found family, and survival. Lilo is one of Disney's most real protagonists, in my opinion. She's not a princess, not a chosen one. She's just a kid trying to hold on to what's left of her family after her parents' death. And Nani, her older sister, is trying to keep their home grounded, but all while barely being an adult herself. It's a very human story that happens to have an alien in it. So structurally, the movie balances 3 narratives seamlessly: Lilo's emotional need for connection, Stitch's journey home from weapon to family, and the cosmic comedy of alien agents trying to capture him. The pacing is near perfect. There's no wasted scene. Every moment deepens the emotional bond or builds chaos that makes the payoff work. What makes this structure work so beautifully is that it mirrors real family dynamics, messy, unpredictable, but full of love underneath. And overall, to me, Lilo and Stitch is tight, emotional, and character-driven. It's clear that Lilo and Stitch's storytelling is definitely part of Disney's top tier. Category number 3 is emotional impact. So now let's talk about the emotional weight of Lilo and Stitch, because for me, this is where Lilo and Stitch captures its legendary status. Disney is known for tugging on heartstrings, but this film's emotion doesn't come from magic or romance. It comes from a real-life struggle. The dynamic between Lilo and Nani is painfully authentic. They argue, they frustrate each other, yet they never doubt how much they love one another. There's no fairy tale solution to their problems, just resilience, understanding, and tiny acts of care. And then there's Stitch, a creature literally designed for destruction who ends up learning compassion through being loved. When Stitch says, "This is my family, I found it all on my own," that's not just cute, it is devastatingly human. Because at its core, this movie isn't just about aliens, it's about belonging and being seen as more than your mistakes. It's about the families we make, not just the ones we're born into. And it's quietly one of the most emotionally honest films Disney's ever made. Emotionally, this is easily one of the top 3 most emotional Disney films, rivaling The Lion King and Big Hero 6. Moving on to category number 4, humor and tone. Now, you would think that a movie about grief and family trauma would be a major downer, but Lilo and Stitch is hilarious, and it's part of the reason we all love it. The humor here isn't about one-liners or slapstick alone, but about personality. There's Lilo's weirdness, like feeding Pudge the fish a peanut butter sandwich because she believes he controls the weather. There's Stitch's chaos, meanwhile, he is also perfectly balanced between menace and charm. Then you have Pleakley and Jumba, an alien comedy duo straight out of Men in Black, but with Disney heart, and they add levity without ever breaking that emotional flow. But what's really impressive is the tone. This film juggles heartbreak, sci-fi, comedy, and a slice of life realism, and somehow makes it all feel very natural. It's both very funny and cathartic. Overall, Lilo and Stitch nails tonal balance. Funny, heartfelt, and weird, all in the right ways. My verdict, it's definitely a win in humor and tone. Category number 5, villains and stakes. So when it comes to villains, Lilo and Stitch doesn't have a single big bad, and that's what makes it special. Gantu is technically the antagonist throughout most of the film, but he's more of an obstacle than a villain. Cobra Bubbles, the social worker, is framed like one early on, but he is actually the most responsible adult in the film. And you can tell that he hopes that Nani makes things work. Even Jumba and Pleakley shift from hunters to helpers. The real antagonist here is instability and the fear of losing family. That's something that feels scarier than any sorcerer or sea witch, in my opinion. In traditional Disney rankings, this might seem like a weak category, but in terms of storytelling, it's brilliant. By removing a cartoonish villain, the film forces the conflict to stay very personal, and every decision has an emotional weight. My verdict here is that this film is subtle, subversive, and grounded, not necessarily villain-driven, but deeply human. Moving on to category number 6, which is music. Lilo and Stitch's soundtrack is like a chef's kiss. Unlike most Disney musicals, this isn't filled with character songs. Instead, it uses Hawaiian and Elvis tracks to ground the story in its cultural and emotional space. With songs like He Mele no Lilo and Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, celebrating Hawaiian identity and community, and also the Elvis songs Devil in Disguise, Suspicious Minds, Burning Love. It mirrors Lilo's quirkiness and Stitch's playful chaos. So I think they did a great choice there. The soundtrack creates a feeling more than a message, and it immerses you in the setting. It's joyful, grounded, and unforgettable. It might not have a let it go, but it has soul, and on top of everything else going on in the film, the soulful approach was the last dollop of magic that this film needed. So with all that being said, I am ranking Lilo and Stitch in 5th place. Why? Because it's a rare Disney film that blends heart, humor, and humanity without needing a fairy tale kingdom. It's intimate and sincere, a very small-scale story with a massive emotional resonance. Visually, it's soft and unique. Structurally, it's balanced perfectly. Emotionally, it's devastatingly authentic. It's funny without losing depth, and its lack of a traditional villain actually makes it more relatable. It's not just a story about a little girl and an alien, it's about all of us, about being broken and loved anyway, and finding your place in a world that doesn't make sense. And that's why, out of Disney's long list of classics, Lilo and Stitch earns a spot near the top for me as the 5th best Disney animated film of all time, at least currently. Thanks for watching, and if you love Lilo and Stitch as much as I do, drop your favorite quote in the comments, or like maybe your favorite scene. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and remember, Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. So stay warm, stay cozy, and tell your family that you love them this holiday season.
The way you did once upon